section on your business with Accent Nominees. So on this edition of your business with Accent Nominees, we'll be continuing with our series What Next After Business Registration. So last week we talked about how to update your business status on the Corporate Affairs Commission portal from inactive to active. So if you are watching today's series, and your business status on the CAC portal is inactive, like your business is quoted as an inactive business, I will implore you to check our last video where we talk extensively on what you need to do to update that status and why that status, why your business is being quoted as inactive. So today on What Next After Business Registration, we'll be looking at 3 legal contents to include on your business website. So after business registration, or even before registering business, before business registration, we're in a digital age now where a lot of business activities are being carried on using digital platforms. So if you're into the service industry or the production industry, and what I mean is this: if you render service to people through the web, or you sell products, you're into the business of sales of products, or you design products for people on the website, on any web app, or even a software application, as long as you are into the you are in the digital space, you trade in the digital space, this section is for you. So what we'll be looking at this afternoon is 3 legal content to have on your website or on your software application. So this afternoon we'll be looking at terms and conditions, we'll be looking at privacy policy, and we'll also be looking at disclaimers. So these are legal content when we said legal content to have on your website. So these are legal content, and they are in forms of agreements, simple agreements. So like I said, if your business requires that you operate a website where people subscribe to your service, or if your business requires that you sell products using a software application or using a web application, it would be good to have terms and conditions of use, to have privacy policy, and also to have a disclaimer. So what is the essence of having all of this legal content on your website? First, it is a way of indicating that you are aware of legal provisions that regulate the use of websites and software applications for business purpose. And once you have these terms and conditions on your app or on your website, it also shows to the public that there is a sense of responsibility on your part. And this is to say that information people will be providing on your portal, information people will be releasing because they want to use your portal, is well guided and protected. And that's why we have a privacy policy. And you will observe that sometimes when you try to access some web page, or you try to download a software application on your phone, one of the things that you see that pops up on your phone screen is usually a terms and condition of use, a privacy policy, and a disclaimer. Sometimes all of these are embedded, like they are in one single content. So you can just see a content that pops up on your screen that talks about privacy policy, and in this privacy policy, if you are careful to read through, you also discover that this privacy policy includes terms and condition of use, and it also includes a disclaimer. So this is why before you sign up to use any website, or to sign up to use any software application, it is advised that you create time to read some of these privacy policies. And I understand sometimes this can be a very long list, and I've also discovered in time past, when I subscribe to some portals, and even while I try to read some of these privacy policies, sometimes they are written in very tiny font and very long text that you keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it looks like there's not going to be an end to all of this. So this is why you need to be very careful before signing up on any website or on any software application. So Talking about privacy policy, what does it entail? So privacy policy is a policy that talks about the use of your information, why it is collected, the purpose for collection, and the protection that is being guaranteed for providing that information. And also a consent too is a place where when you sign a privacy policy, it is a consent document or a consent policy where you voluntarily release information that you'll be dropping on the portal. And when we talk about privacy policy, this is born out of the constitutional right to privacy, because as a Nigerian and also in other jurisdictions, there's a right to privacy. So if I provide a details, or if I give you details about myself, I have a right to privacy. I have a right to the use of that details not to be used for another purpose. So if I'm giving you information about myself for a particular purpose, let's say for a medical purpose, let's say I'm subscribing to medical service on a platform, and I have to provide details about myself, my health status and all. So it is expected that this details is used purposely for it is used solely for the purpose of rendering medical service to me. So if after subscribing to your portal, then I now see some of this information in other pages where I didn't subscribe to, then there's a breach of my privacy. So, and this is why we have a regulation in Nigeria, that's the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, that talks about what how people should use people's data provided to them. So if I own a website, it is expected that I have a data manager, someone who is in charge of managing my data that is supplied to a particular web page. So as a data manager, it is expected that data you receive from people should be used solely for the purpose which is being collected. And that's why if you go through a privacy policy, it talks about the use of the data provided, it talks about how this data is collected, it talks about how it is being used. And if your website is such that there's going to be a linkage to another third-party website, these are things that are also provided in a privacy policy. And it is also expected that your privacy policy should also talk about updates. So if there's an update to the privacy policy on a particular website, it is expected that you also notify people once there is an update so that they can sign up to this update. So like I said, when we talk about privacy policies, it's just a document that talks about the data that is being collected, so that you can know the extent of data to give to a service provider or someone who you want to patronize, or you want to subscribe to their services. So when you see a privacy policy, it talks about, okay, what kind of data do we expect to get from you? Is it your name alone, or we need your date of birth, or we need your banking details? Because talking about products, this is an age now where you can transact online without even seeing the person you are transacting with face to face. So where the portal is such that, or the web page is such that you need to provide your debit card details or your credit card details, or any of your banking or financial details, your BVN, your personal details such as your ID numbers and the like. So if you have to upload some of these documents. So talking about data that is being collected, the privacy policy should spell out these data to be collected, so that people are well informed and they are very much aware of the data you are getting from them. And this policy also states that after people have provided these details on your website, they've given you the consent to use it for the purpose which you want to use it for. So it's not just enough to say you are getting this data from them. There should be a place where people can sign up to say, oh, I'm giving consent to the use of my data for the purpose stated in the privacy policy. And that is why every privacy policy should state the use of data being collected, so that people are well informed. So if on your website you stated that, oh, we want to use this data to do this, if the person is not very pleased with it, so let's say you've stated on your privacy policy, you have in your privacy policy to the fact that any data that is being collected is going to be transmitted to a third party, and the person is not cool with it, it is best that the person does not sign up to that privacy policy. So the portal should be, or your website should be built in such a way that if anyone does not sign up to that privacy policy, the person should not be able to proceed to the next phase. And this is something that I've experienced in time past, whereby I read a privacy policy and I'm not very pleased with it, and I choose not to consent or to sign up for it. And because I didn't sign up for it, I'm unable to go to the next page. In fact, I have a particular app on my phone that I've not been able to access it because I have not signed a privacy policy. So your website should be designed in such a way that if people don't sign up for this privacy policy, they should not be able to move to the next phase, or they should not be able to utilize your website or to utilize the your software application. So your privacy policy also should also state the rights of people. So it's not just enough to say you are using this data for this and that, and without you saying, oh, if there's a data breach, or if your data is being used in line with or is being used differently from what was agreed upon, then this is the remedies that are available to people. So your privacy policy should not just protect you, but it should give, like, there should be this sense of confidence in people such that they can freely give out their data to you, because there should be this level of trust to the extent that, oh, this person I'm giving my data to, if there's a breach, I should be able to enjoy some rights. So it's not just enough to say this is how we will use the data. You are not giving them remedies for a breach of their data. So your data policy, your privacy policy should state the rights of people. Do they have a right to request that their details be corrected? Do they have a right to request for an update? Do they have a right to say that, oh, I don't want I want to unsubscribe from your platform? And we've seen cases where there's even a particular platform I subscribed to initially, and in the long run it was more of a nuisance from the activities of the platform, and I unsubscribed, and I still kept getting emails from them because they already have my email address stored in their database. So your privacy policy should be able to let people know that once they unsubscribe from your service, they should not, and that should bring an end to any conversation or any relationship between yourself and their business. So that should be stated. It should be such that when a client or someone who has subscribed to your service is saying, I'm no longer interested in this service, you should delete such a details, or should delete such person's details from your website. So it shouldn't be that someone has unsubscribed from your services and the person still keeps getting messages, bulk emails and the likes. So your privacy policy should be able to talk about the maintenance of people's information. So this talks about confidentiality and the extent of protection you give to the data they will be given to you. So your privacy policy also should contain how people can contact you if they have any issue on the use of data, because it's best if people are able to reach you and communicate with you once they notice a breach of their privacy, and they're able to have a conversation with you, then notify you, then you can easily correct it without having to go all the way to report to regulatory agencies and like. So your privacy policy should be such that people can have a platform where they can lodge complaints to first, before having to report to regulatory agencies or having to file a lawsuit for any breach of their privacy. Because sometimes it's better to just meet with people on the negotiation table to resolve any breach that has occurred, either voluntarily or involuntary breach of the use of their data. So another thing that your website should have is the terms and condition. So talking about the terms and condition, it is a contract between yourself and the users of your website. And what does these terms and conditions talk about generally? It talks about the rules that governs the use of that website. So your terms and conditions should contain things like, oh, how do you subscribe, how do you operate, like the general operation of the portal which the person is subscribing to. So the clauses that you should have in your terms and conditions includes the details that people should expect to provide on their website, on your website. And your terms and conditions to talk about the extent of liability. So if I'm subscribing to your platform, what am I liable for as the owner of that platform, and also for the person who is also subscribing to my platform. If the person is giving me false information which I act upon, and as a result of that, the person is unable to get premium service or is unable to get what the person should ordinarily have received, the person has provided accurate details or information to me. So your terms and conditions should state that any decision you'll be making, or any service you'll be rendering, or anything people will be getting from you, is going to be based on details they've provided to you. So this is to let people know that they need to give accurate information. So let's say, for example, you are into a medical service, like you have a platform where you render medical service to people, and people subscribe to that channel or to that page or to your website. There should be a duty on them to give you accurate information, because if someone is having a headache and the person lodges a complaint to say that I have stomach pain, and you recommend or you prescribe drugs for that will cure or relieve them of stomach pain, at the end of the day something happens and it's been discovered that the person actually had a different ailment contrary to what was presented to you. So your terms and conditions should state that any decision you are making, or any act or any step you are taking, is going to be based on information that was supplied to you. So talking about terms and conditions now, any things or anything you feel should govern your relationship, because these are people you are not seeing face to face, so you can't sit down with them to talk about the terms and conditions at all time. So this is why it is always best to have your terms and conditions. Okay, this is the service I provide to people. How do I want to render this service to you? Okay, if it is a product business where people will have to place orders for goods, talking about delivery, talking about how orders are made, your refund policy. So these are things that you can have in your terms and conditions of use. Okay, if you place an order, how is it going to, like, what's the procedure for placing an order? If you want to request for a refund, or if you want to request for a change of goods, or if you want to request for delivery of goods to you. So these are terms and conditions. So depending on the kind of service or the kind of product or what that website is being built for, you should have a one size fits all. You should have a comprehensive terms and conditions of use to state that, oh, this is how we operate this business, this is how we expect that users of this website should adhere to terms and conditions, or just let them know the terms of the engagement basically. So when you have these terms and conditions and it clearly spells out how the relationship is being managed, then when there is a breach either from the user of the website or from even the owner of the website, you can present the terms and conditions to say that this is what you agreed to, or this is what you stated on your platform that you're going to do, and you've done contrary to what is being agreed upon. Then the terms and conditions can be a way of so-called, like, can be something you can rely on to save not just the business owner, but even the beneficiary, someone who is patronizing that business. You can rely on the terms and conditions of the platform, of the service you've subscribed to get damages for a breach of the terms and conditions. Then another thing that you should have on your platform, especially if it is a platform where it is being used by a lot of people. What do I mean by a lot of people? I'm talking about third parties. So still talking about the medical platform where I used as an example. So let's say you've developed an app where medical practitioners can provide service, or you've even developed an app where people can subscribe to different services. So let's say legal service, technology service. So you want to engage a web design, you want to engage a graphic designer. So let's just say you've come up with an idea, you have an idea where people can access a lot of services. So let's say someone needs the service of a baker, someone needs the service of a caterer, someone needs the service of an interior decorator, different services. So let's just say you've developed a service app or a service web app, and you have a lot of professionals subscribing to this service where they can render services to third parties. So you can have, it is advised that you have a disclaimer on your website to the effect that any transaction that is being carried on the portal or on your web page by each of these professionals, that the user of that service or the beneficiary of that service will hold you harmless of any damage that may occur as a result of the use of the platform. So let's say I develop a website where people can subscribe to different services as I've explained earlier, and let's say someone subscribes to one of the service providers. So let's say a baker. I have a baker onboarded on my platform, and someone has requested this baker to bake a cake or to provide confectionery services for a party, and this person disappoints, or what the person delivered at the end of the day is not what was ordered for. So having a disclaimer on my platform will hold me harmless. Like the subscriber or the beneficiary of that service cannot come to me to say that, oh, I got this baker on your platform and I assume that the person is a professional, or then you'd come to ask for damages from me. So if you have a disclaimer on your website to say that any service rendered to them by third-party users, that you are not liable to any damage, or you are not liable for any misconduct, or you are not liable for any loss that may arise as a use or as a result of their subscription to the service offered by this third party. So when you have a disclaimer on your website, you are free, or it's just one way you just excuse yourself from any liability. Because if you don't have that, I can come to say, oh, you have this person on your portal, you manage this person, and for you to have the person subscribe to your portal, for you to have represented these people to people out there should be this level of trust and confidence in the service of the person. So if you have that disclaimer, it's a way of excusing yourself from any liability or for any negligence carried on by a third party who is a subscriber to your platform and who provides services to other subscribers on the platform. So with these few points, we've come to the end of today's section on your business with Accent Nominees. If you have any question, you can drop it in the chat box and we'll get back to you. Join us next week for another edition of What's Next After Business Registration. Do have a great day. Thank you.